My name is Lila Thompson, and I used to have what seemed like the perfect life. I was 28, with a successful career in marketing, a beautiful downtown apartment in Los Angeles, and a fiancé I thought I was going to marry. Ethan had been my best friend for 5 years, and we were planning our dream wedding. We were happy. Or so I thought. I returned early from a business trip to New York, eager to surprise him. I imagined walking into the apartment and finding him there, ready to spend the evening together. But when I opened the door, there was an eerie silence. The apartment was empty, except for Ethan's phone on the coffee table, buzzing with incoming messages. I wasn't the type to snoop, but something told me I had to look. The name on the screen made my stomach drop. Serena. My cousin. The one person I had trusted more than anyone in the world. The one person who, I thought, would never betray me. I picked up the phone, trembling. The message preview said, "I miss you already. Last night was incredible. Can't wait to see you again." My world came crashing down in that moment. I couldn't believe it. Serena, my best friend, my cousin, was having an affair with my fiancé. When Ethan came home, I confronted him. His guilt was written all over his face, but it didn't change anything. "How long?" I asked, my voice shaking with the hurt. 3 months, he admitted. "It just happened, Lila. We didn't mean for this to happen." In that moment, everything I had built with Ethan felt like a lie. He wasn't the man I thought he was, and Serena, my own flesh and blood, had destroyed any hope of reconciliation. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? How did you handle it? Let me know in the comments below. Let's talk about it. 6 months after the breakup, my life was still in chaos. I had thrown myself into my work, even accepting a promotion to distract myself from the emptiness that consumed me. But as much as I tried, I couldn't escape the heartbreak. Then, one Tuesday morning, it happened. A letter arrived. An elegant, cream-colored envelope with gold lettering. When I saw the names, Serena and Ethan, my heart sank. Together with our families, we, Serena Reedart and Ethan Hayes, request the honor of your presence at our wedding. The invitation felt like a slap in the face. How could they invite me to their wedding after everything they had done? My first instinct was to burn it, forget it, pretend it never happened. But instead, I RSVPed yes. I wasn't going to be the victim. I wasn't going to let them see me fall apart. I would go to that wedding, not to seek revenge, but to show them all that I was stronger than ever. Would you go to the wedding of your ex-fiancé and cousin after everything that happened? Why or why not? Share your thoughts below. I knew attending the wedding would be difficult, but I wasn't going to walk into that venue as the broken woman they thought I was. I was going to walk in as someone who had rebuilt herself, someone who had taken control of her life again. My best friend Natalie was the first person I called after I received the invitation. She had been my rock through everything, and now she had one mission: to make me shine. Natalie wasn't one to sit around when there was work to be done. She set me up with a transformation plan, and she wasn't about to let me go to that wedding without looking my best. From shopping for the perfect dress to booking spa appointments, Natalie made sure I was ready to face Ethan, Serena, and the world. We found the dress, a crimson silk gown that hugged my curves just right. It was bold, it was elegant, and it was the perfect representation of who I had become. With each workout, each spa treatment, I felt myself getting stronger, physically and emotionally. It wasn't just about looking good. It was about feeling empowered, about showing everyone that I wasn't the person they thought I was. What would you do to rebuild your confidence after betrayal? Would you focus on your appearance or something else? Let me know below. The day of the wedding arrived, and I stood in front of the mirror, staring at a version of myself that was almost unrecognizable. I didn't look like the woman who had been heartbroken months ago. I looked like someone who had taken control of her life. I had transformed into someone I could be proud of. Maxwell, my date, was waiting for me outside. I hadn't known him long, but he had been a great support during this time. His presence made me feel safe. And that night, I needed to feel strong. He looked incredible in his charcoal suit, perfectly matching my red gown. I felt an unexpected connection with him, a warmth that grew the more we talked. It was as if our paths had crossed for a reason. As we entered the luxury resort for the wedding, I could feel my anxiety creeping in. I had prepared for this moment for months, but nothing could truly prepare me for facing Serena and Ethan. I wasn't sure if I was ready, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let them see how much they had hurt me. Have you ever had to face someone who hurt you? How did you prepare yourself for that moment? Share your story with me in the comments. The ceremony was brief, just the usual vows and promises. But for me, it felt like an eternity. I couldn't stop watching them. Serena in her perfect white dress, Ethan standing at the altar. And I couldn't shake the feeling that everything I had worked so hard for was slipping away. But then, as the night wore on, everything changed. Maxwell stood by my side, a silent pillar of support. And when the toasts began, I wasn't sure what to expect. Ethan and Serena's friends made their usual speeches, all sentimental and safe, until it was Serena's turn. She stood with her glass of champagne, her eyes scanning the room before landing on me. "I want to say something," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "Sometimes the path to true love is difficult, and sometimes you have to go through obstacles to find your perfect match." I felt my heart stop. I knew what she was going to say, and I had to stop her. The wedding ceremony was quick, just like every other wedding I had attended. The vows exchanged, the rings placed, and the I do's said. But for me, every word felt like a hollow echo. The man I had once loved was now standing beside my cousin, and I couldn't shake the sense of betrayal that still lingered. Maxwell remained by my side, his comforting presence grounding me. The reception began, and the tension in the air was thick. I could feel the eyes of the guests on me, the whispers, the side glances as I walked in with Maxwell. Most of them didn't know the history, and those who did probably thought I was there to make a scene. But I wasn't there for revenge. I was there to show the world and myself that I had moved on. As the reception wore on, more awkward speeches were made, each one more strained than the last. It was obvious to me that no one wanted to address the elephant in the room, the strange triangle that now existed between me, Ethan, and Serena. I could see the discomfort in Ethan's eyes as he glanced at me from time to time. He was trying to keep the perfect facade intact, but it was breaking down around them. Then, it was time for the toasts. I braced myself as the best man. Trevor took the microphone. His speech was lighthearted, full of stories from Ethan's college days, but I could feel the discomfort in his voice. Every word felt calculated, as if everyone was tiptoeing around the fact that this was all one big lie. But when Vanessa stood to speak, My heart skipped a beat. Vanessa's voice was loud and clear, amplified by the microphone, and she stood proudly in front of everyone. The tension in the room only grew as Vanessa began her toast. "I want to say something too," Vanessa said, raising her glass of champagne. "Some of you may not know this, but Ethan and I didn't have a traditional path to love. Sometimes love comes from unexpected places." My stomach turned. I could feel Maxwell's hand tighten around mine, his silent support a reminder that I didn't have to go through this alone. But my focus remained on Vanessa, the woman who had stolen everything from me. "Sometimes," Vanessa continued, "it takes time for a man to realize where he truly belongs. He might have been with someone first, but he chooses the one who truly matters in the end." A few gasps could be heard in the crowd, and I felt my anger building. Vanessa was speaking as if she were the hero in this twisted love story. As if she hadn't just ripped everything away from me. Maxwell stood up suddenly, drawing everyone's attention. The room fell silent as he adjusted his tie and cleared his throat. He wasn't just standing for the toast, he was standing for me. "For those who haven't had the pleasure of meeting me yet," Maxwell said with a smile, "I'm Maxwell Thompson, Paige's date this evening." My heart skipped a beat as Maxwell continued, his confidence radiating. "First of all, I'd like to congratulate the bride and groom. Marriage is a beautiful thing, a commitment that takes trust and love." I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Maxwell wasn't just making a speech. He was taking the power back for both of us. He was letting the world know exactly who I was and who I had become. "But I'd like to make one thing clear," Maxwell said, his voice firm. "I'm not Paige's consolation prize. I'm her upgrade." I could feel the room hold its breath. Vanessa's face flushed a deep red, and Ethan looked like he had just been slapped. For the first time that night, the attention wasn't on them. It was on me. Maxwell wasn't just standing up for me. He was showing everyone in that room that I was worth so much more than they had ever given me credit for. My hands trembled as I held his gaze, grateful for the man who was now in my life, making me feel seen. What would you do if you were in Lila's shoes? Would you stand up for yourself like Maxwell did? Share your thoughts with me in the comments below. After Maxwell's toast, the atmosphere in the room shifted. It wasn't the same as it had been earlier. The guests who had been pretending not to notice the tension were now fully aware of what was happening. The truth was out in the open, and everyone could see it. As the night continued, I could see Serena and Ethan making their rounds, trying to keep up the appearance of a happy couple. But every time their eyes met, I could see the cracks in their facade. They couldn't hide from what they had done. Maxwell stayed by my side throughout the night, offering me his support and making sure I felt comfortable in the most uncomfortable of situations. But it wasn't just Maxwell's presence that made me feel stronger. It was the fact that I had finally taken control of my own story. I wasn't going to let them define me. For the first time in months, I felt a sense of peace. The anger, the hurt, the confusion, it all started to fade. I wasn't the victim of this story. I was the one writing the next chapter, and I was going to make it one worth reading. The evening wound down, and I knew it was time to leave. I had already shown Ethan and Serena that I was no longer the girl they could control. I had shown myself, too, that I was capable of rising above the pain and moving on. Maxwell walked me to the door, his hand resting gently on my back, and for the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Have you ever felt like you needed to reclaim your narrative? How did you take back control of your own story? Let me know in the comments. The days following the wedding were filled with a sense of clarity I hadn't expected. I was no longer consumed by thoughts of Ethan and Serena. Instead, I was focused on my own growth. Maxwell's presence in my life had brought a sense of calm, and slowly I was learning to trust again. Not just him, but myself. I found myself laughing more, smiling more, and starting to look forward to the future. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was living in the shadow of betrayal. I was living for myself. Maxwell had become more than just a date to a wedding. He was becoming someone I could see a future with. We spent more time together, and the bond between us grew stronger every day. I had never imagined that I would find happiness after the heartbreak, but Maxwell made me believe that love didn't have to come from the past. It could come from a new beginning. But there was still one thing I needed to do. I had to face my family. It wasn't until a few weeks after the wedding that I realized just how much I had changed. I was living my life again, but not in the way I used to. There was something different about the way I looked at the world now. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. Maxwell had become an anchor in my life, but it was more than just him. It was the strength I had found within myself. I wasn't the same person I had been before the betrayal. No, that woman, the one who had believed in fairy tales, in the man who had promised her everything, was gone. And the woman I had become, she was unbreakable. It was funny how life worked out. When I first found out about Ethan and Serena, I thought it was the end of everything. My heart shattered, and I believed that nothing good would come from it. But I didn't realize at the time that it was just the beginning of my true journey. I had to learn to trust myself again. I had to learn that my worth wasn't defined by anyone's actions except my own. And let me tell you, that was harder than anything I've ever done. But it was also the most rewarding thing I've ever experienced. Have you ever had to rebuild your life from scratch after something devastating? What was the first step for you? Let me know in the comments below. I didn't expect to hear from my mother so soon after the wedding. In fact, I had been avoiding family gatherings. After all, how could I face them knowing what Serena had done? But my mom called me every day, leaving voicemail after voicemail, her voice full of concern. It wasn't until one afternoon, when I was sitting at home with a cup of tea, that I finally picked up the phone. Lila, my mom's voice came through. I don't know what's happening between you and Vanessa, but this rift is breaking my heart. Please, can we talk? You're my daughter, and I love you. I just want everything to be okay again. I closed my eyes, letting her words sink in. I had been angry with her, with everyone, for not understanding the gravity of what had happened. But hearing her voice, tired, worried, and longing for peace, made me reconsider. I hadn't realized just how much the betrayal had affected my relationship with my family until that moment. They hadn't been the ones who hurt me, but they were the ones I had been avoiding, pushing away, because I couldn't face what they represented. I took a deep breath, knowing I had to face it. Mom, I said softly, I'm not sure what to say. I'm still processing everything. But I'm not okay with what happened. I need time. But I'll talk to you. We'll figure this out. Have you ever had to deal with family pressure after a personal betrayal? How did you handle it? Let me know in the comments below. It was a week later when I decided to meet with Vanessa. I had spent days trying to figure out the right way to approach it, but deep down, I knew that this was something I couldn't avoid. It wasn't about forgiving her, at least, not yet. It was about understanding what had happened, about confronting the past, and seeing if there was any way forward. We met at a quiet cafe in the city, the kind of place where no one would recognize us, and the noise of the world could fade into the background. When I arrived, Vanessa was already sitting at the table, her hands nervously fiddling with the edge of her coffee cup. She looked different. There was no arrogance, no confidence in her posture. It was like everything had been stripped away from her. And maybe, just maybe, that was the first sign of her regret. I sat down across from her, watching her carefully, my heart pounding in my chest. I wasn't sure if I was ready for this conversation, but I knew it had to happen. "You look good," Vanessa said quietly, breaking the silence. "I never thought you'd be okay after everything." I met her eyes, steady and calm. "I'm okay," I replied, my voice firm. "But we need to talk. We can't move on without addressing what happened." Vanessa looked down at her hands, her voice faltering. "I know," she admitted. "I know I hurt you, Lila, and I don't know how to make it right. But I need you to understand. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." Her words felt empty, but there was a softness in her eyes. Maybe she was starting to understand. Maybe she was realizing that the damage she had caused couldn't be undone so easily. "You made a choice," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "You chose to betray me, and that's not something I can just forgive." She nodded, her face flushing with shame. "I know. I'll never be able to make up for what I did. But I want you to know, it wasn't about you. It wasn't about him. It was about me, and the way I felt invisible next to you. I just wanted to be seen for once." I stared at her, absorbing her words. It wasn't easy to hear, but it was the first time she had ever admitted the truth. It wasn't about Ethan. It was about the years of competition she had felt, the resentment she had carried in silence. And maybe that was the key to moving forward. Not forgiveness, but understanding. Have you ever felt invisible to the people you care about? How did you deal with it? Share your thoughts below. The next few months were a blur of changes. I had taken the time to focus on myself, to rebuild the life that had crumbled so suddenly. My work had become a place of comfort, and with Maxwell by my side, I had started to see the world differently. He had been my anchor through all of this, not just a distraction, but a source of genuine connection. He made me feel safe, something I hadn't realized I needed until I found it with him. It wasn't just about the way he looked at me. It was the way he saw me for who I truly was. As I walked down the street one afternoon with Maxwell beside me, I couldn't help but smile. The past had shaped me, but it no longer controlled me. I had reclaimed my life, my confidence, and my peace. And now, I was ready for what came next. "We're doing well, aren't we?" Maxwell asked, his voice soft but full of warmth. "Yes," I said, my heart swelling. "We are, and I'm ready for the future." I had finally let go of the anger, the resentment. I had finally forgiven myself. Have you ever been able to let go of the past and move forward? What did you do to embrace your new beginning? Let me know in the comments below. It wasn't long before Maxwell proposed, and this time it wasn't about revenge or proving a point. It was about love. Real, genuine love. The kind of love that wasn't built on pain or past mistakes, but on a future of mutual respect and understanding. "Will you marry me?" Maxwell asked one evening, a soft smile on his face as he looked at me with those warm eyes. "Yes," I said without hesitation. "I will. Because this time, it feels right. And this time, it's real." I wasn't marrying him to fix something that had been broken. I was marrying him because I knew that together we could build something beautiful, something strong, and something that was ours. And that was exactly what I was going to do. The months after Maxwell's proposal were filled with a sense of peace that I hadn't experienced in years. There was no more anxiety about running into Ethan or Serena at family events. The resentment, the sadness, the anger, they were all things of the past. Maxwell had become not just my companion, but the person who helped me heal in ways I hadn't even known were possible. I threw myself into work, but this time, it was different. I wasn't using work to distract myself from the pain anymore. I had found joy in what I did, passion in my career, and fulfillment in my personal life. The future, which had once seemed uncertain, now looked bright and full of possibilities. Maxwell and I spent weekends exploring new places together, rediscovering what it meant to enjoy life without the shadows of the past hanging over us. We went on hikes, took spontaneous trips to places neither of us had been before, and laughed more than I ever thought I could again. But there was one thing that still lingered in my mind: the idea of truly closing the door on the past. It wasn't that I hadn't forgiven myself or the people who had hurt me. It was just that there were still loose ends. I needed to make sure I could fully embrace my future, without the weight of past betrayals weighing me down. And that meant facing my family one more time. It had been months since I had seen Vanessa or Ethan. I had cut myself off from family gatherings, not because I hated them, but because the pain was still too fresh. My parents had tried to reach out, but I wasn't ready to face them just yet. The betrayal still stung too much, but after everything I had been through, I realized that I needed closure. I had forgiven them in my heart, but now I needed to make peace with myself and my family. One day my father called me, his voice full of concern but also warmth. "Lila, we miss you. Please come to dinner. I know it's been hard, but we're family. We want you there." For a moment I hesitated. It had been so long since I'd seen them, and the thought of facing Vanessa and Ethan again felt like a weight on my chest. But I knew it was time. So I agreed to meet them. The dinner was set at my parents' house, a quiet, intimate gathering. When I arrived, I was surprised to see how much my family had changed. My father, usually the rock of the family, looked older, tired. My mother, ever the peacemaker, seemed almost fragile. They had been hurt too, but in different ways. Vanessa and Ethan were already there, sitting at the table, looking uncomfortable. But there was no anger anymore, no hostility. Only an awkward tension, the kind that lingers when two people know they've hurt each other, but don't know how to fix it. I sat down across from them, my heart racing, but I kept my composure. I didn't need to prove anything to them anymore. I had already proven it to myself. My father spoke first. "Lila, I know things haven't been easy. We've all made mistakes. But I want you to know that I'm proud of you. You've been strong through all of this, and no matter what, you're always my daughter." My heart softened. For the first time in months, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I realized that forgiveness wasn't just about the people who had hurt me, it was also about finding peace within myself. Vanessa looked up at me, her face full of regret. "Lila, I'm sorry. I can never undo what I did, but I hope you can. Find it in yourself to forgive me." I nodded slowly. "I forgive you, Vanessa, but this isn't something that can be fixed overnight. It's going to take time, and I'm not sure things will ever be the same between us. But I'm ready to try." The conversation continued, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace with my family. It wasn't a perfect reconciliation, but it was a step forward. We were all finally starting to heal, together. As the weeks passed, I continued to build a life that was mine and mine alone. With Maxwell by my side, I was more than just a survivor of betrayal. I was a woman who had rebuilt herself, stronger than ever before. Maxwell had proven that love didn't have to be tied to the past. It could be something entirely new, something that blossomed from mutual respect and understanding. Our relationship wasn't about revenge or proving a point. It was about real connection. One evening, as we sat together, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. "I never thought I could feel this way again," I said softly. "After everything, I didn't know if I'd ever feel whole again." Maxwell squeezed my hand, his gaze steady and reassuring. "You're whole, Lila. You always have been. It's just that now you see it too." I smiled, my heart swelling with affection for him. We had both been through our share of pain, but together we had found something beautiful. A few months later, Maxwell surprised me with a proposal. A simple, intimate moment that meant more to me than any grand gesture. He had given me space to heal, to rediscover myself, and now he was offering me a future built on that same foundation of love and respect. "Lila Thompson," he said with a grin. "Will you marry me?" With tears in my eyes, I nodded. "Yes, Maxwell, I will marry you, because I know now that we can build something real together." 1 year after the wedding, Maxwell and I were sitting on a bench in a park, watching the world go by. We had built a life together, a life full of love, laughter, and trust. The pain of the past had faded, leaving only the joy of what we had now. I had faced betrayal and heartache, but I had come out the other side stronger, wiser, and ready to embrace whatever came next. I had learned to let go of the past and embrace the future. Maxwell turned to me, his smile warm and genuine. "So, what's next?" he asked, his hand slipping into mine. I smiled back, feeling the warmth of the sun on my face. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." And in that moment, I knew that my journey had only just begun.